In the not-so-distant future, due to global climate pollution, many strange diseases have emerged, the most dangerous of which is the GH mutation disease, which turns anyone infected into a monster, transforming them and causing them to lose all sense of self. They lose their consciousness and constantly hunt humans to tear apart, but fortunately, nature has a way of balancing things out. In opposition to those with the monster gene are those who carry the superhuman gene, which upon awakening, grants its possessor extraordinary abilities that no ordinary person could ever possess. Our main character unfortunately became a monster, and what's more, he was the alpha leading thousands of other monsters in an attack on humanity. During that final earth-shattering clash, he personally ended the life of the one person he loved most. By the time a sliver of his humanity regained control of his body, she was already gone, and he was enraged with himself for being too weak to resist the monster's control. Boiling with rage, he began slaughtering all the other monsters in a frenzy, but somehow, in the middle of his bloodthirsty rampage, he suddenly found himself in a luxurious hotel room and he screamed his lover's name. After calming down for a few seconds, he was confused because he was just in a fierce battle and had no clue how he got here. It was totally surreal. Noticing a receipt nearby, the main character discovered that today was only June 15th, 2025, which meant the battle was still a whole 10 years away. The young man's face went blank because at this point in time, the screening test was just one day away. The DNA test to identify infected individuals and control those with genetic mutations. And tomorrow was the very day he would learn that he carried the monster gene. From that day forward, he was fitted with a tracking device, becoming someone despised and looked down upon by all of society, and was completely shunned. As he was wondering how to avoid being discovered, a woman's voice suddenly came from the bathroom, saying, "Honey, can you grab me a towel?" The young man jumped in surprise, and when he turned, he saw a girl in the shower with a figure that was absolutely stunning. He was about to drop his pants and join her in the shower when his phone suddenly buzzed with a notification, and he opened it. To see, it was a teasing message from his girlfriend, from before he had regressed, saying that everyone in their class knew that an older woman had taken him to a motel to celebrate his 18th birthday. She joked that he should film it so the class could learn a thing or two. Hey. Recognizing the beloved face of his girlfriend at 18 years old, he smiled blissfully because he got to love her all over again. He. However, his joy was short-lived as Leo's expression suddenly turned grim because he knew he had the monster gene and that couldn't be changed, but he promised himself that in this life, he wouldn't let the monsters achieve their goals. He had 1 year from now until he would be completely consumed by the demon within, and with eyes burning with sharp intensity, Leo resolved to find the monsters that had controlled him before and destroy them. He would make them pay for trying to destroy this precious world. As his fighting spirit surged, suddenly, grotesque green veins bulged on his left hand. Before he could understand what was happening, just a few seconds later, his entire left arm transformed into a hideous demonic arm. Just as the demonic blood was about to consume his entire body and turn Leo into a true monster, the girl, who had been waiting for her honey to bring her a towel, slowly stepped out of the bathroom. He was so confused, because he was supposed to have 1 more year before transforming. This was beyond frustrating, and he was afraid that if the woman found out he was a monster, she wouldn't want to get it on with him anymore. Leo clenched every muscle in his body with all his might to suppress the demonic blood flowing within him and his body back. Fortunately, the demon inside him was still weak, so it was subdued by Tintone's will. It slowly retreated inside, returning his body to normal. When the girl saw him go quiet, she cautiously approached to see what was wrong. Although she looked incredibly alluring, Tinton was afraid that in the heat of the moment, the monster would suddenly appear and kill her. That would be a disaster. So he quickly grabbed his jacket, said his goodbyes, and left. As soon as he opened the door, waiting outside were 5 or 6 beautiful girls, ready to ask for his seed. When she saw Tintin trying to flee, a pink-haired girl ordered and her posse to surround him. Honestly, our protagonist was practically drooling, but he was afraid that while they were getting it on, the monster, it would awaken, so he resisted the temptation. Tinton broke through their encirclement and ran off as fast as he could, although they really wanted to get Tinton's seed. He was too fast for them to catch, so they had to let him go. After escaping the group, Tinton finally breathed a sigh of relief. In his past life, as soon as everyone found out he was infected, they all quickly abandoned and shunned him, except for one person, and that was Chinu. Speak of the devil, she appeared right as he ran to the front of a restaurant across from the hotel. Chimu, with an incredibly innocent face, had been waiting for him for who knows how long. Moreover, she was holding a gift box. Our protagonist had just walked up, and before he could even say hello, she handed him the gift and teased, "Are you really that bad in bed? It's only been 5 minutes, and you're already out here? How pathetic." And this is a bottle of Yunnan Baiyao, specially made to treat a man's promiscuous ways, especially. yours. Seeing the woman of his dreams still caring for him despite knowing his philandering ways, Tin Tan was choked with emotion and raised his hand to touch her cheek, promising himself that in this life, he would cherish Chinu's feelings and never let her suffer even a little bit. Seeing her dreamboat being unusually warm today, the girl was a bit flustered. Just as he leaned in to kiss her, suddenly, the monster inside him awakened, ready to tear Chi-Nu to shreds. Not wanting the love of his life to get hurt, Tin Tan used all his strength to turn away and restrain the monster. Chi-Nu was bewildered. They were just about to kiss, and then he suddenly stopped, which made her pout. He knew the demon inside was hungry and didn't want his lover to become its food, even though he was dying to get intimate with her. For her safety, Tin Tan suppressed his lustful urges and ran away as fast as he could. After running a fair distance, he stopped in front of a clothing store and recalled something. According to statistics, it was known that about 5% of people carried the monster gene. Society didn't fall into chaos because of this, as only those with the monster gene could be infected and turned into monsters. So, after finding a red outfit, Tin Tan blended into the bustling crowd, wondering who to choose as food when suddenly the movie theater in the nearby shopping mall burst into flames. People fled in a panic. It turned out this explosion was caused by monsters, and moreover, they were chasing people down for food, knowing that he wouldn't be attacked since he carried the blood of a demon, even. As everyone else fled in terror, Tin Tan calmly walked towards the fire. Some random punk was being chased by a monster, and was scared out of his wits, sweating profusely. Seeing our protagonist walking towards the monster instead of running, the guy ran behind him and pushed him forward as bait, but because it recognized a fellow monster, it immediately ignored Tin Tan and continued to chase the other guy. Seeing the punk who tried to use him get chased again, our protagonist smirked. "Serves you right. How dare you mess with me, you bastard." The others screamed in terror, drool dripping everywhere, looking absolutely disgusting. But he couldn't understand why the monsters weren't attacking him. Standing amidst the monsters tearing people apart, Jin Kun let the monster inside him savor the feeling of death so that it would become satiated and wouldn't show up to ruin things when he was being intimate with you anymore. Then, they formed a wall, blocking anyone from approaching the movie theater. Knowing that the demon inside him was a demon lord, he let his underlings guard the door outside, while Jin Kun coolly walked inside to enjoy the free meal. Inside, a fierce battle was still raging between the superhuman gene bearers and the vile demons. Because he was only an apprentice, and because the young man named Lin Shi had to rescue people and fight at the same time, he got hit and lost an arm. Seeing him lose his ability to fight, they rushed forward, intending to make him their dinner. Knowing there was no way out and that it was an all-or-nothing situation, Lin Shi used the ultimate move he had just learned to attack them. The incredibly powerful attack was like a laser beam, cutting through the monsters wherever it passed. Their limbs and guts were instantly sliced apart. But because there were too many of them, and since he had already lost an arm during the earlier clash, he couldn't finish off all the demons, and they still charged ferociously, intending to make mincemeat of him. Powerless, Lin Shi could only give up and wait to become the monster's dinner. Just then, Jin Kun appeared out of nowhere and landed a powerful punch right in the monster's face, saving Lin Shi. The young man was stunned and confused, with no idea where this guy came from to save him, his eyes wide and his jaw dropped in utter amazement, because he could repel a monster with his bare hands, which was simply absurd. Not wanting anyone to know that he himself was one of those monsters, Jin Kun had wrapped his arm in bandages to hide his genetic mutation. With the overwhelming power of a pack leader, Jin Kun easily defeated the lower-level monster. After sending it flying, he turned back to look at Lin Shi with a smug expression. "You've still got a long way to go, kid." As the one responsible for protecting the public from the monsters, even though he had lost an arm, Lin Shi still requested that Jin Kun evacuate the civilians, while he himself would stay behind to continue fighting. Seeing that the kid was already missing a limb and yet was still boasting about taking on the monsters, Jin Kun rushed straight at Lin Shi, making him wonder what the hell this idiot was trying to do. While he was still dazed, Jin Kun approached and knocked him away. When he felt that no one was bothering him anymore, he quietly went to find food for the monster hidden within him. He had only taken a few steps when, out of nowhere, a massive monster burst through a wall and charged at him. It roared, "A half-formed monster like you dares to steal my food?" Then it opened its huge mouth, intending to swallow Jin Kun whole. Knowing that his own monster level was extremely high, and that ordinary monsters were nothing to him, he stood still to see what it would do. The moment the monster's fangs and claws reached him, Jin Kun's eyes glared as he unleashed his monstrous power against it. The energy was so immense it tore his bandages apart, revealing a monstrous and incredibly powerful arm, bulging with green veins. With such a massive power gap, Jin Kun only had to flick his hand lightly to make half of the monster dissolve into dust. Its jaw dropped, unable to believe that someone in this world could possess such immense monstrous power, as it was truly unbelievable. You want to know? Then let me drill it into you, Jin Kun said as he smacked it right in the face. You probably wouldn't believe me if I told you, but I used to be a monster lord with experience bay. And rich, the monster cried while being beaten. We're brothers, the same kind. How could you eat your own kind? Of course I can. Boo-hoo. Ignoring its pleas for mercy, Jin Kun let the demon inside him awaken and then devoured him. After eating his fill, he remarked softly how delicious fresh monster meat was. Meanwhile, outside the shopping center, the agents were still fighting fiercely to carve a bloody path inside to rescue everyone. Realizing their power seemed weaker than before, everyone joined forces for an all-out attack after dealing with the minions. They charged in together to save the people. A short way in, two of them unexpectedly ran into Lin Shi, who was missing an arm and was with a group of children. Seeing his best friend maimed, the young man ran over to tease him. Don't be sad, my good friend. With your abilities, even with just one arm, you're still as badass as Yang Guo. Hey hey. Lin Shi retorted bitterly. You call yourself a friend? Seeing me like this and still smiling from ear to ear. A true every man for himself kind of buddy. Then he told the two of them that an unknown individual had appeared, attacked the monsters, and then knocked me out. When I opened my eyes a while later, I saw you two here. While I was half conscious, I even saw him eating the monster he had just killed. Furthermore, his left hand had released blue flames, plus I got a glimpse of his face under the hood of his coat. If I see him again, I'll definitely be able to recognize him. Hearing this, his best friend was dumbfounded, not understanding what kind of creature that guy was to eat a monster. The scar-faced man also spoke up. Indeed, a special case has appeared, a monster eating a monster. But that's not right. If that person eats monsters, then Lin Shi should have been eaten too, right? Possessing the power to defeat a level 2 monster and violently interfering with a person carrying out a rescue mission. We must issue a warrant for his arrest immediately. And so, after eating his fill of monster meat, Jin Kun ditched the red cloak and blended into the crowd, gleefully playing dumb as if nothing had happened. Although he knew he would evolve into a high-level monster, he didn't expect it to happen so quickly. Normally, it would take a whole year to evolve, but Jin Kun only took a few hours to reach level 2. It was unbelievable. After eating his fill, the main character slowly returned to his beloved former home. In the future, it was destroyed by rampaging monsters, but for now, it was still usable. Recalling his past life, after playing adult games with the ladies, he had returned here after 3 o'clock in the morning. The apartment complex suddenly had a blackout. The entire area lost power, as the electricity was converted into energy and absorbed by GU at home. Her superhuman gene awakened, causing her superpowers to go out of control. Following that, she would harm her entire family, and 136 other people would also lose their lives. GU's psyche was severely damaged, and because of that, her face was left with a scar that would never fade. Looking at his phone, he realized it was still early, not even 12 o'clock yet, which meant there were still nearly 4 hours until that disaster occurred. However, realizing that she might fall asleep and repeat the same mistake, Jin Kun immediately called his muse. When GU heard her phone ring, she reached out to see which guy was calling, but suddenly her entire body was electrocuted. A powerful electric current that appeared out of nowhere restrained her, and although she was only a handspan away from the phone, there was no way GU could touch it. The girl was about to scream for her parents' help, but she couldn't make a sound. This was the legendary out-of-control superpower, and the electricity just kept flowing into her body. Since she wasn't even 18 yet, she was terrified of dying and struggled with all her might to escape the current. But it was all in vain. GU was on the verge of tears, thinking about all the food she hadn't eaten and all the places she hadn't visited. And now she was going to die here. What a waste of a life. Boo-hoo. As she was crying, she suddenly heard someone calling her from outside, and before she could figure out who it was, Jin Kun leaped onto her window. Because his darling wasn't picking up the phone, he got worried and jumped up to check on the situation. Even though she was about to kick the bucket, she was still wondering what he was doing up here. Was he planning to make a move on her or something? Knowing that his muse was in danger, he had no time to explain. He frowned and told her to just stay calm, promising to explain everything once she was safe. Thank goodness. She was scared to death, but now someone was here to save her, so the girl sat obediently like a puppy waiting for him to fix it. Seeing Jiu comply, Jin Kun approached her, while telling her that no matter how scared she got, she must not make a sound to avoid alerting the neighbors. Then he took his transformed arm, his demon arm, and grasped his beloved's hand tightly. The electric current from her body immediately transferred to him, knowing the room would explode if they stayed any longer. Jin Kun unceremoniously tossed the girl into the sky. It was Jiu's first time flying, and her eyes rolled back. In a daze, she was about to scream, but then remembered the handsome guy had told her to stay quiet, so she quickly covered her mouth with her hand, suppressing her fear. A few seconds later, Jin Kun shot up swiftly from the windowsill and caught the muse of his life in his arms. Being held in her idol's arms, Ji felt an indescribable flutter. All she could do was hold on tight and gaze at the handsome guy. Then, while holding, his beloved, Shin-kun used his demon arm, stretching it out to grip a wall and leap onto a nearby rooftop. Then, knowing Ji-Yu's life would be in danger if she didn't release the energy, Shin-kun immediately pointed his finger into the sky, telling the girl to release the electrical energy upwards since she didn't know how else to escape the situation of being electrocuted. The girl obediently did as he said. And so, after opening her mouth, an extremely powerful stream of electricity shot out like a torrent. After a few minutes, it gradually depleted. Seeing the girl in a daze, Shin-kun just stood there quietly watching. When she regained consciousness, the first thing that caught Ji-Yu's eye was Shin-kun's demon arm, because in her past life, even though she knew he was a monster, she had always defended him, so Shin-kun calmly told her that one of his arms had been demonized. But luckily, he could still control it. With that done, he slowly turned his demon arm back to normal. Seeing Shin-kun call himself a monster, she feared it would be big trouble if someone heard. So the girl pouted and quickly covered his mouth with her hand, making the young man freeze in confusion for 2 seconds. Ji gently reminded him that being a monster isn't something to brag about. You shouldn't say that. Not even to me. In this world, most people hate monsters. If someone finds out, you will be in great danger. You could have just made something up to lie to me. Why did you even show me? Unaware, seeing his beloved still, worrying about him like this, even though she knew he was a monster, Shin-kun smiled happily, then slowly pulled Ji into a hug and whispered, "That's exactly why, if you ask, I'll tell you. In this whole world, you're the only one who can make me trust, unconditionally." Then, the two of them watched the moon together under the starry sky. Suddenly, among the thousands of stars, there was something with a flashing red light slowly approaching them. It turned out to be a drone belonging to scientists who specialize in searching for signs of evil. Seeing something suspicious in a city plagued by demons, a scientist and his nurse immediately approached. When he saw our handsome couple acting furtively, he gently said, "Don't be afraid, we are from the Gene Research Institute. Who was responsible for the lightning strike here just now?" Before he could finish his sentence, Ji immediately claimed responsibility for it, leaving Shin-kun, who was standing beside her, completely stunned. He had never treated her well, yet she just saved him. How adorable. Did she think she could just take the blame for him? The professor slowly approached and ordered the nurse to take their DNA for testing. The young lady obediently complied at once, and then he approached Ji to speak with her. "Young lady, you released such a powerful electrical discharge, yet the young man beside you is completely unharmed. The young man must also possess superhuman powers." Then, he asked the young lady for some blood, much to Shin-kun's bewilderment. As soon as her drop of blood mixed with the test tube, it immediately had a violent reaction, making the professor's jaw drop as he exclaimed, "The concentration of superhuman genes in this girl might just break the record." On the other side, the pretty nurse had also collected Shin-kun's DNA. Perhaps because she was new to the job, she was still a bit clumsy and didn't know how to get the results. A moment later, the nurse exclaimed, "This person's blood also shows a weak superhuman gene reaction, but I've never seen one this weak before. No wonder it took so long to react." Hearing this, the professor ordered the nurse to take them both back to the research institute for a full examination. When he heard his results, Shin-kun's jaw dropped in disbelief. He suspected the nurse's skills were still green and that she might have messed up the test. He was supposed to have monster genes, not this. How bizarre. And so, they arrived at the Manhwa Gene Research Institute for a full examination. While measuring his electrical charge, a nurse gave him some not-so-great news, informing him that his superhuman gene concentration was the lowest in history, only 1 in a million. But seeing Shin-kun's handsome face and toned muscles, the nurse just wanted to make a baby with him right then and there. After hearing the results, his eyes were filled with contemplation. The reason Shin-kun had superhuman genes was because his body was half human, half monster. Possessing superhuman genes meant he could enroll in the Manhwa Superhuman Academy, which was much better than having his monster genes discovered and being put under surveillance. He cheekily asked the girl, would 1% like this be enough to qualify for enrollment at the Manhwa Superhuman Academy? Seeing a handsome guy wanting to be her schoolmate, the girl beamed. "You only need 0.1%, so 1% is more than enough, sweetie." As the girl was about to register Shin-kun for school, outside, many students were buzzing with surprise because someone had achieved a 95% superhuman gene concentration, breaking the world record, and they were running to see who it was. Seeing this, Shin-kun also eagerly ran out to check out the gossip. He recalled his past life, where he was drowning in despair with a 99% monster gene concentration and hadn't paid any attention when Ji-Yu's gene test caused such a sensation. So, he followed the crowd to see what was happening. All the onlookers were flabbergasted. unable to believe that after a 500-volt current passed through her, the girl was completely fine. She truly lived up to her title as a genius with 95% superhuman genes. The students were all gossiping about GU animatedly. Shin-kun didn't know anyone, so he just stood in a corner listening in. And so, after finishing the test with 500 volts, the researchers continued to increase the power to 600, then 700 volts. Not only that, but the voltage was even increased to 1000 volts. Jin-kun still thought it was completely normal, but everyone watching from the outside was dumbfounded by her sheer power. They whispered among themselves, wondering if she was even human. She was just that terrifying. Then, the experiment continued. The voltage was now increased to 2000 volts, but Yu's expression didn't change at all, taking it as if it were nothing. She even flashed a bright smile. Standing outside and watching his beloved get zapped, Jin-kun grew anxious and wanted to go inside to get a better look. But a researcher stopped him. You can't go in there right now. She has too much electricity coursing through her. You have to let her discharge some of it first, otherwise you'll get hurt. As he was wondering how to sneak in, two other people approached, also wanting to go inside. It turned out to be the dean of this academy, and walking beside him was Ju Qing, acting as his escort. He ordered the researcher to let them in, saying that a trivial amount of electricity like this couldn't possibly harm him. And so, the two were let in, while Jin-kun remained stranded outside. Since he was friends with Yu and knew she was both beautiful and talented, Ju Qing eagerly went over to get friendly with her, thinking he could ask for favors later. Hee. Yu, afraid that the electric current and her body might hurt Ju Qing, warned him to keep his distance. But as someone with the ability to create fire, the young man was very confident he could handle it. Then he conjured a flame in his hand to show off to her. Then, seeing Yu's flawless beauty, Ju Qing reached out his hand, wanting to feel if her skin was as smooth as a baby's. Jin-kun, who was watching with his face pressed against the door, became furious seeing his beloved about to be touched. At that moment, he just wanted to jump in there and beat that guy up for being a creep and hitting on his girl. Knowing Ju Qing had intentions towards her, Yu coyly said that she was still charged with electricity, so it wasn't a good time for a handshake, since he was also someone of high standing at the academy. Ju Qing didn't rush things, deciding he would win her over later. Then he cheerfully said to Yu, once classes start, we'll be put into groups, and a group's performance determines how many resources it gets for training. I'm the third young master of the Fan family, possessing 90% superhuman genes and high aptitude. I hope to form the strongest team. With the best teammates, we can obtain the best resources. Classmate Yu, I hope you'll consider joining my team. Hearing such a tempting offer, Yu pondered for a moment, not sure which path to choose. It was truly a dilemma. But after thinking it over, she decided Jin-kun was the better choice, so Yu rejected Ju Qing's offer to join his group. Then she glanced over at her beloved. Knowing that Jin-kun's test result was very low, only 1%, Ju Qing's face was filled with contempt. When he saw the main character walk in, he didn't even bother to spare him a glance. When Yu saw Jin-kun approaching, she cheerfully exclaimed, telling him that they would be in the same class and on the same team. Hee. Seeing the two of them flirting right in front of him, Ju Qing was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Seeing that his nephew was in an awkward situation, the dean stepped in to help him out. The academy has some business to attend to. Let's go. Knowing he'd have to witness more of their public displays of affection if he stayed, Ju Qing eagerly left. Before he went, he turned back one last time. He told Yu to reconsider and join his team. As expected, there was no urgent business. The uncle and nephew just went into a room for a private chat. Ju Qing was bitter that he was superior to Jin-kun in every aspect, yet Yu didn't give him a second glance. Girls are truly impossible to understand. The dean, with his decades of romantic experience, was about to enlighten his clueless nephew. Her heart already belongs to someone else, so don't waste your time. Let me give you a hand. And with that, he made a call to the school's admissions office, asking them to return Shin-kun's application. Even though Shin-kun was qualified for admission, the admissions officer, afraid of losing his job, just obediently complied with the request right away. He looked up at his nephew. See, it only took me 1 minute to deal with that thorn in your side. You're still too green. Seeing this, Ju Qing praised him profusely, remarking how true it is that the older you get, the wiser you become. Then, after the checkup, Sister Yu and Shin-kun casually returned to the dorm to chat happily. The girl was staring at his demonized arm from before with intense focus, knowing that Shin-kun needed to consume human flesh to suppress the demon within him. Instead of being afraid, she told Shin-kun that the world is full of bad people, so taking out a few of them wouldn't be a problem. This left him completely baffled. This girl is way too into me. It's nuts to want to love a monster. While they were happily chatting, there was a knock on the door. It turned out to be the nurse from earlier, informing Sister Yu that her parents had arrived and she should go complete the enrollment procedures. The girl was thrilled about getting to study here. It was so exciting. She beamed and chatted happily with Shin Kun. Since no one had come to register for him yet, the young man just looked blank. Seeing the handsome guy looking sad, Sister Yu cheerfully encouraged him. It's fine, my parents can register for their future son-in-law. Nothing would make me happier than getting to study with you. Then, Sister Yu left to register for her classes, but just a few minutes after she left, she returned with an unusually sad expression on her face. Even though she really wanted to study with him, she had to deliver some very sad news to Shin Kun, which was that the academy had rejected an application. They said he was rejected because his superhuman gene was only at 1%, making him no different from a normal person. Hearing the bad news, his face fell. It was clearly stated that anyone with a superhuman gene could enroll. They never said a low percentage meant you'd be rejected. He was beyond pissed. The girl also sat down on the bed in anger and snapped. This is so unfair. What the heck is that admissions officer thinking? Are they trying to start a rebellion or something? Even though she was furious, she still looked like a total snack. Shin Kun found this strange. He was the one who got rejected, so he should be the one who was sad and angry. This girl was really something else. Then she stood up again and started cursing out the damn person who reviewed his application. How could they reject such a handsome guy? They better hope I don't find them. Even though they barely knew each other, having met less than a day ago, seeing her stand up for him like this made Shin Kun's heart feel warm, and he silently thanked his senior. Is there really no other way? Could I get in by revealing my monster gene? South Moon's Superhuman Academy has all the resources I need to become stronger. I absolutely have to get in. Just as he was about to pack his bags and leave, the girl's phone suddenly started ringing in her pocket. It was a call from her superior, informing her that before Shin Kun left, they wanted to give him one last chance to prove himself so there would be no regrets. Knowing that he had a chance to showcase his talent, Shin Kun's eyes grew sharp and his expression turned cold. He was determined to show them what 1% was truly capable of. Meanwhile, upon hearing that the administration was giving Shin Kun a trial test, Zhu Chuan became visibly furious and began to use his fire demon art, wildly blasting it everywhere. His eyes were filled with killing intent, as if he wanted to eat alive anyone who got in his way. With no one to vent his anger on, the young man unleashed his fury on some nearby moths. Seeing his nephew lose his composure again, the dean came out to encourage him, offering a glass of wine to ease the tension, and revealed that Shin Kun was given this chance to be Jing Che's student, a person of even higher rank than himself. The dean also let his nephew know that he had long been dissatisfied with them for breaking the rules, and if that kid passed, it would be a slap in his uncle's face. But even if he didn't pass, he would still protect his authority as the head dean. Unwilling to lose his advantage, Zhu Yuan gave his uncle a tip, saying they couldn't let him pass the trial. Otherwise, our G faction and his uncle's reputation would be ruined. The dean knew exactly what his nephew was about to say. He calmly told him not to worry. Since Shin Kun's superhuman gene was only at 1%, there was nothing to be concerned about. A brat like that could never get close to our world, so just relax. 5 days later, the day of the test finally arrived. In the control room, someone was monitoring the students arriving for the test. Probably because he hadn't eaten meat in a while, Shin Kun looked completely gaunt and haggard, just like a living corpse. When they zoomed in on the young man, the observer wondered, what kind of idiot allowed him to take the test? He couldn't even walk straight. What the hell kind of test could he take when facing a monster? He would just become its food. He had been sent by the dean to make things difficult for Shin Kun, but seeing his condition like this, the man smirked, thinking there was no need to get his hands dirty. Back at the assembly point for the test takers, the energy stored in his body was nearly depleted, and the hunger was so intense he felt like he could just open his mouth and bite anyone there. Looking at everyone, around 18 to 20 years old, they looked like a 5-star buffet. Seeing that everyone had gathered, the proctor announced the rules for the exam: 3 hours, 3 life or death trials. A few days ago, the dean of the Gene Research Institute had made an exception to allow one more person to participate, and not knowing who it was, the other kids looked around, and they spotted a gaunt young man who looked like a frail old man. Seeing how weak he looked, everyone wanted to be his opponent. Shin Kun. Seeing the crowd of food chattering away, he was practically drooling, but feasting here would blow his cover, so he tried to restrain the poor demon inside him, and then he entered his trial room. Seeing the suspicious look on that other guy's face, Shin Kun knew this was just another scheme by someone trying to get him kicked out of the academy, but since he knew he was the main character, Shin Kun wasn't afraid and decided to play along. The moment he touched the door to the room, he immediately detected that the blood on it belonged to someone with a superhuman gene, which was especially attractive to monsters. He knew someone had set him up, but since he'd already come all this way for the test, he wasn't afraid and walked straight inside. As soon as the door closed, that guy taunted, "Just go and die. If you mess with our faction, you have 0 chance of surviving and leaving this place alive." He added that all the monsters would rush towards his cage, and what a coincidence, that in this temporarily added trial room number 18, the only super alloy lock that could protect you is broken. With 5 times the strength of a human, and as 3 iron-skinned monsters, nothing will stop them from rushing in to tear you to pieces and become a delicious meal. Your only way to survive is to look behind you. There's an escape door there. You'll be safe if you leave through it. After saying that, the guy turned his back and left, not caring what Shin-kun decided to do. Our protagonist reminded him, softly, "Don't let me get out of here, or you'll be the first person I chew on." Heh. Knowing that Shin-kun only had a 1% superhuman gene, the guy openly disdained him, eager to see what the kid could possibly do to him now that his work with Shin-kun was done. In the monitoring room, the subordinate was chatting with his professor boss, confirming there was no issue and that his only path to survival was to choose to give up. "I see he's already scared speechless," the professor said with a smug smile. He told his subordinate that from the start of the trial, monsters would be spawned on the trial grounds and then enter the trial room. It would probably take 10 seconds for them to reach him. I'll bet 100 million yuan that he'll give up in under 5 seconds, so the two of them watched Tin-Tun together to see what the result would be. The gate separating the monsters from the contestants slowly opened, and behind it were countless starving monsters. They were just waiting for someone to arrive so they could tear them to shreds. The moment it opened, they immediately leaped down to search for prey. The two guys were counting every second to see how long Tin-Tun would last, laughing and joking gleefully. But what the hell? Tin-Tun didn't even wait for the horde to come to him. He directly stormed through the door to confront them. Seeing this, the duo's jaws dropped. Is this dude high? He's lost his damn mind. Seeing their prey serve himself up, 3 monsters eagerly rushed in to attack him, but he ignored their ferocity. Tin-Tun calmly walked forward as if facing a few kittens, and just as he was about to take out a few of them, they suddenly ignored him and went to find other contestants. At that moment, Tin-Tun was dumbfounded, realizing it was because he himself was already half monster. If they see me as an ally and don't attack, my cover will be totally blown. The 2 guys watching on the monitor also yelled with their jaws dropped. Why did the monsters completely ignore him, walking right past him like that? The professor clicked his tongue. It's probably because of the superhuman's blood. There was too much of it on the door, and since this kid has no killing intent, it's natural for the monsters to pass him by. And so, Tin-Tun got the first ticket without breaking a single sweat. The professor, however, was still all smiles, confident that in round 2, it wouldn't be so simple, telling his subordinate not to be impatient but to watch slowly, as the best part of the show was yet to come. As Tin-Tun was bending down to pick up the ticket, a young man rushed out of nowhere, wanting to rob him. Seeing that the main character was slow and sluggish, like an old man, the youth taunted, "Go home and enjoy your retirement. You young geezer. You've picked the wrong era. You know that?" Finding his words annoying, Tin-Tun turned to give him a light glare and warned, "If you've got the guts, come and get it." Then he even revealed a demonic form, scaring the young man, making the kid break out in a cold sweat. Realizing Tin-Tun was no pushover, the youth backed away, not daring to utter another word. Not only that, he was shaking like a leaf, his nose bleeding like a fountain, enough that he could be wiping it for 3 days, and it wouldn't stop. He looked at the main character as if he were facing a real monster. Back to the monsters, after they finished licking all the blood from the door, they started to notice the 2 young men. Instantly, 2 of them charged towards Tin-Tun. Seeing the monsters approaching, the other youth trembled in fear, not understanding why the hell Tin-Tun wasn't running away and was just standing there, for God knows what reason. Because he had monster blood flowing through him, Tin-Tun wasn't scared at all and just stood still, waiting to greet the monsters, to see what they could do to him with a smug look on his face. "Go on, eat me if you can, hee." But because the monster inside him was extremely hungry, so before the monsters could even do anything, Tin-Tun's left hand was already raised as if wanting to rip each of their heads off. But if his whole arm transformed, his secret would be out. He tried his best to only let the monster manifest as a long mouth, in the palm of his hand with countless sharp teeth. With one gentle bite, his hand swept past the monster's waist and took it a large chunk of flesh. The monster standing nearby was also dumbfounded, not understanding why an ally was attacking one of its own, a huge question mark appearing above its head. Having gone a long time without a savory meal, the moment he got a taste of his comrade's flesh, his face showed clear ecstasy, despite taking a painful hit. The enraged monsters counterattacked him, but with his keen eyes, Tin-Tun saw it coming and dodged with absolute ease. He tried to explain to them that they were all brothers, after all, and a guy just needed a little bite to survive. They were seriously holding a grudge, seeing Tin-Tun getting pummeled by the monsters. The coward from before was scared out of his wits, because after they were done with the main character, he would be their next target, causing him to break out in a cold, anxious sweat. In stark contrast to that anxiety, over here, Tin-Tun was fighting with incredible ferocity, where just a light touch from his hand was enough to make a monster's neck snap back in agony. Seeing its comrade get thrashed, the adjacent monster also launched a ferocious attack, but with the power of a monster overlord. These small fries were nothing. Tintin, still in a state of bliss, unleashed his moves so smoothly that it made the other guy's jaw drop. This dude only has 1% superhuman genes. Does he really have to be this overpowered? Someone must have screwed up his test results. Although he could finish them with a single blow, doing so would mean the monster that's inside him wouldn't get to feed, so Tintin only landed occasional strikes to let that other mouth tear off some flesh from the monsters. And so, toying with them, he tried to let the monster inside him eat as much as possible. Witnessing the entire fight, the blue-haired guy was also stunned, having no clue where this guy came from to be so powerful. At this level, and he still has to take a test to get into school, someone must have set him up. Up in the monitoring room, the guy in the baseball cap was gaping, in disbelief that someone like that could dispose of the monsters so cleanly. What about the punishment class then? Beside him, the sly professor remained calm and pensive, then flashed a sinister smile and winked at his subordinate, saying it was still too early, as the best part of the show was yet to come, so he should just sit back and enjoy it. Meanwhile, once the old students saw that Tintin had pocketed the ticket, and that the monsters were all defeated, Zhao Sheng, their leader, brazenly demanded the ticket from Tintin, completely unaware that he was messing with the wrong guy. Knowing that Tintin's power was no joke, Wu Yin, still cowering in a corner, tried to warn his friend, telling him not to be stupid enough to provoke him. But being an arrogant young punk, Zhao Sheng paid him no mind. He completely dismissed the warning, immediately turning to Tintin and taunting, "Do you have any idea who I am? Hand over the ticket if you know what's good for you, before you get your butt kicked." Just as the punk was running his mouth, the monster, enjoying the blood on the door, suddenly lunged forward to attack, startling him. He immediately ordered his 2 lackeys to deal with it, although much smaller than the monster. With his muscular physique, Baldy was completely confident he could take it on alone. The guy told his friend, "If that third-rate gamer over there can easily handle 2, then I should be able to fight 5 at once. If you're scared, just step aside and watch the show." With that, Baldy stepped forward alone to face the ugly monster. Seeing it raise its hand at him, Baldy didn't even flinch, arrogantly believing he could block it with ease. As its hand was about to make contact with him, Baldy eagerly raised his arm to block, a smug look on his face, thinking he could break its arm. However, a loud crack was heard, as an arm broke, but it was Baldy's. Then, before the pain even had time to reach his brain, the monster slapped him right across the face, a surprisingly gentle swing, completely messing up his profile picture. A second after taking that gentle and loving slap, I was sent flying. My friend next to me was dumbfounded, wondering what to do now, wondering if it's too late to give up. Seeing his friend get easily taken out by the monster, Zhao Sheng angrily cursed them out, calling them a bunch of weaklings. And they dared to call themselves his underlings, telling them to get the hell out. While he was passionately scolding his teammates, he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He instinctively looked back and saw a massive fist hurtling towards him, and he was about to teach the guy a lesson for being so insolent. But then he realized this guy was pathetically weak. If he accidentally hit him with his left hand and the guy keeled over, he'd be screwed. So he started to pull his left hand back, planning to punch with his right instead, but it was too late. He couldn't pull it back in time. Seeing the massive fist speeding towards him, Zhao Sheng's face went blank like he'd seen a ghost, not knowing what to do. Then, a second later, that loving punch landed intensely on his face. The gentle punch made his eyes roll back, and he lost his balance, tumbling to the ground. Seeing the strongest guy on their team get his face smashed in, the minions standing around were also dumbfounded, not believing their friend, who was so strong, couldn't even take a single blow. Well, damn, he'd screwed up, realizing he might have hit a bit too hard, afraid the guy would actually die, and then he'd rot in jail. After landing the blow, Xing ran over in a panic to check on him, begging him not to die. Seeing the guy was still breathing, Xing felt a bit relieved and then dropped him on the ground with a thud, done with one guy. He casually asked the rest of them if they wanted to come at him all at once or one-on-one, so he'd know how to proceed. Before they could even decide, the 2 guys sent to block the monster ran for their lives, scrambling back to Zhao Sheng for help. Seeing their friend get beaten half to death, they looked at themselves and realized they were no better off. Knowing that only Xing could save them here, Zhao Sheng swallowed his pride, grabbed Xing's leg, and begged him to save them, promising to pay him a thank you fee afterward. Seeing Sheng show no reaction, even though he was exhausted, Zhao Sheng desperately clung to his leg and pleaded relentlessly. After all, it was a test, and on top of that, he'd get paid. So Xing was secretly thrilled but put on a cold expression and reluctantly agreed. "I'm only helping you because I feel like it." Up in the monitoring room, knowing that Xing wasn't someone who acted easily, the professor ordered his subordinate to release more monsters into the training room. The subordinate didn't dare to disobey and immediately carried out the order. Knowing that the monsters about to be released were very strong, and there was a cute girl down there he hadn't gotten the number of yet, it would be a waste if she died. The young man standing beside him worriedly asked the professor to reconsider. The professor coldly told his subordinate to relax, saying after this he'd take him out for a good time, to make up for it, so not to worry. And so, the switch was flipped, and all the monster containment doors burst open. They swarmed out like a broken beehive, eagerly rushing to find their prey. Because they were so numerous and ferocious, one of the guys was immediately surrounded and devoured. He thought they were just releasing 2 for fun. Who the hell knew he'd release 18 of them? The young man behind the professor worriedly feared that his superiors would punish them. Seeing his subordinate behind him talking too much, the professor stood up and casually reminded him, "Damn it, are you the employee or am I the boss? You're just watching, but you're yapping so much. Maybe I should throw you in there for fun. I've already received a deposit from the Fan family. I'll toss you a cut later to go have fun." Hearing about the money, the young man's face lit up. He thought he was working for free this whole time, which would have been a waste, but with money involved, it was all good. Heh. In the training room, knowing that those noobs were no match for the horde of monsters, Shing coldly charged to the front lines to attack them as they saw him destroy the monsters. Such a powerful creature, yet taken down with a single, effortless move, they now had to acknowledge his strength was no joke. Then, after showering him with praise, knowing that only Shing Kun could save their pathetic little lives here, even though he had no money to pay him, he reassured Shing Kun that he would borrow from everyone and pay him back with his sister. While he was gloating, his sister angrily approached and slapped him, saying they couldn't even afford makeup, so where would they get the money to pay someone? She was seriously annoyed. Then, the sister bowed her head and thanked him profusely for saving their lives, and after thinking they had dealt with all 3 monsters, Zhao Shang stood up and invited the MC to grab a few beers and chat, even offering to marry off his sister Zhao Nu if he was interested. Hee. Just as he was wondering whether to get hot pot or barbecue, Shing Kun suddenly sensed danger and shouted a warning for everyone to find cover immediately. Before he could finish his sentence, a massive, ravenous monster smashed through the wall from the rooftop and lunged down. Knowing this one was several times stronger than the last, they knew they'd be dead if they weren't quick on their feet. Zhao Sheng, who was seriously injured, fearfully pushed his sister and his friend aside to clear a path and escape for his life. However, he hadn't even taken 2 steps before dozens of monsters appeared simultaneously, blocking his escape route and surrounding everyone. Seeing her brother pinned to the ground, Zhao Sheng's sister cried her eyes out with worry. Wu Yin, standing behind them, was terrified and couldn't understand why there were so many monsters, breaking out in a cold sweat. And just as he was thinking the organizers must have changed the rules, at that very moment, they broke through the ceiling and swarmed down, tightening their encirclement around them. Knowing that these monsters were about to evolve to rank 2, making them much stronger than the previous 3, Shing Kun guessed that someone must be behind this scheme, not wanting him to get into the academy. Seeing that Zhao Sheng couldn't move, the alpha monster grabbed him by the leg and lifted him up to prepare for its meal. Everyone was terrified, looking for an escape route. But Zhao Sheng's sister refused to abandon her brother, bursting into tears. The terrified students fled in all directions, ignoring the weaker and slower ones. Unwilling to let her brother become food for the demons, the sister flew into a rage, and even though she knew she was no match for them, she still recklessly charged in to rescue Zhao Sheng. However, it was like an egg hitting a rock. The moment she lightly touched it, she was immediately knocked back by the recoil damage. Realizing there was nothing more she could do, the sister broke down crying, apologizing to her parents at home for passing away before them. Just as she closed her eyes, ready for the next life, Shing Kun instantly rushed in and pulled her out of the circle of monsters. While saving her, Shing Kun casually reminded her that if you're going to die, you might as well die with a handsome guy. What was so special about her brother that she had to make such a meaningless sacrifice? Just step aside and let me handle this. Then, suiting action to his words, Shing Kun tossed the girl towards Wu Yin, who was running in the distance, asking the young man to take care of her for a bit. Of all the people to ask, he had to ask me. How annoying. And so, the two of them crashed into each other with a thud, sprawling onto the ground. Knowing that this horde of monsters was numerous and ferocious, and if he didn't fight seriously, they would all become their food, Shing Kun switched into a very serious combat mode. Then, single-handedly, he charged into the middle of the encirclement to rescue Zhao Sheng first to get him out of the way. Seeing Shing Kun save her brother, the sister on the side was moved to tears, wondering how many rounds it would take to repay this debt. Wah! Because he had demon blood in him, the monsters thought he had jumped in to feast with them, so they didn't. A monster attacked Shing Kun, but seeing it was about to eat Zhao Sheng first without inviting him, a pissed-off Shing Kun channeled power into his left hand. He landed a painful punch straight to its chest, causing it to flinch and release Zhao Sheng. I don't get why our side would attack our own. How surreal. After catching the guy and seeing his friend was still breathing, Shin Kun immediately threw him far away so he could focus on fighting the monsters without distractions. When he jolted awake, Zhao Sheng was stunned to realize he was still alive, and on top of that, the one who saved him was Shin Kun. He truly didn't know how to repay this debt. However, since there was no one to catch him, the young man tumbled painfully on the ground a few times. Seeing her brother was still breathing, Xiao Tao happily ran over to help him up. She mentioned that Shin Kun had also saved her earlier, and she didn't know how she could possibly repay him. Zhao Sheng blurted out, "Well, you can repay him with your body. That'll cover the 5 million he saved me too. What a profit. Hee hee." Seeing her brother joking so crudely, a flustered Xiao Tao hit him a few times. She wasn't even 18 yet, how shameless of him. Then, when realizing how dangerous it was, Zhao Sheng urged his sister to flee quickly, otherwise they would all be killed. Despite there being many, extremely dangerous monsters, countless people still risked everything to rush in and fight for a single ticket. Xiao Tao wanted in on the action too, but her brother forbade it, so she had to drop the idea. Then, the two of them helped each other to a room to rest and recover their strength. On the other side, now that all the hindrances were out of the way, Shin Kun was freely and casually dancing among the horde of monsters. The power gap was immense, however. If he were to transform into his demon form to crush them, his identity would be exposed. So, even though he completely outclassed them, Shin Kun had to handle things cleanly, avoiding any cameras. While he was focused on fighting, suddenly, the door in the ceiling began to move. This was meant to kill people, not be some kind of damn test. Holy hell, a few. A moment later, the power was cut for an unknown reason. Monsters swarmed down like a waterfall as the students scrambled for the ticket, ignored the world around them, and continued to fight for the ticket, heedless of the danger. And so, while they were busy fighting over a worthless item, they all became dinner for the monsters. The young man who had just grabbed the ticket couldn't even rejoice before he was surrounded by a whole pack of monsters. He had no idea where so many of them came from and didn't know how he could possibly escape. Now, it turned out the one who cut the power was that big guy in the baseball cap. For money and women, he had traded the lives of countless innocent people. After committing his crime, he still wore a grim expression, telling himself he was only following orders and if anyone was to blame, it was the dean. Discovering that someone had played a dirty trick on him, Shin Kun immediately shot a loving gaze in his direction. Since he was standing in a safe place, the guy, even though he'd been spotted, still looked down on Shin Kun with contempt. "So what if you see me? What are you gonna do? Huh?" Then he flipped him the bird and taunted, "It's thanks to you I was able to earn 10 million. Now I can go party as much as I want. Heh. Hey." Then, while the guy was still gloating, Shin Kun suddenly ripped off a monster's arm and threw it straight at his face. Since he was standing behind bulletproof glass, the young man was a little startled but remained confident that he was perfectly safe. And then, while he was in the middle of his taunt, he was suddenly dragged by some supernatural force right through the glass, landing in the middle of the encircling horde of monsters. Seeing fresh meat, the monsters excitedly rushed to surround him. From a distance, Shin Kun, while still fighting off monsters, turned to give the guy a smug look. "Yeah, keep trash-talking me. Your number's up, kid." Then, Shin Kun leisurely, fighting monsters while observing them tear apart the treacherous guy who pushed everyone into danger. He occasionally even put on a ridiculously cocky face because that guy was all talk and had zero combat power. That young man was quickly taken down by them, and they began to tear him to pieces. After consuming the fresh flesh, many of the monsters started evolving to other, more powerful tiers. Some grew tails, others grew scales, all radiating killing intent as they searched for humans to continue their hunt. However, the easy prey were already food, and now all that was left in the arena was a half-human, half-beast opponent who was a real handful. Then, after evolving to a higher tier, they commanded their underlings to attack all at once. Tinton stood on a high floor, watching, knowing that with such a massive number of monsters, even true warriors would have a hard time handling the situation. Besides, this was just some brat who hadn't even been officially accepted into the academy. The professor gloated, thinking that after this, he could party and celebrate to his heart's content. Hee hee. Then, he smugly destroyed the only emergency exit to cut off all of his escape routes. After the door was slammed shut, he slowly walked over to the two young men on the monitoring team and woke them up. It was obvious that he himself had electrocuted them unconscious, but as soon as the two young men woke up, the old man yelled loudly, "Damn it, you two! Am I paying you to come here and sleep? Why is the power out in the training ground? And what about the cameras? Why are they all down? What a bunch of useless bums." Confused, having just woken up from being knocked out only to be cussed out, the two young men apologized profusely to him and promised to fix the problem immediately. Inside the training room, realizing that all the cameras were no longer working, Tin slowly unzipped his left arm to let the demon within him unleash its full power. Then, just as the monsters approached, he successfully transformed into a demon, thrilled that he could now fight freely without anyone watching. With the power of a demon lord, he charged left and right through the encirclement, a single light blow tearing off countless of their limbs. After absorbing enough flesh, Tin's complexion brightened up considerably, and he just targeted the biggest, toughest ones to pummel because they had eaten people with superhuman genes, so when his hand absorbed their flesh, he indirectly obtained those genes as well, growing even stronger. When he realized his arm was evolving to a higher tier, he felt something was very wrong, and he slammed his hand on the ground, clutching his head in helplessness. Then, he clenched his own arm, hoping he could restrain it from taking over his mind. Behind him, a few lucky survivors who had escaped death saw Tin's demon transformation and wanted to rush in and kill him. However, because the main character had saved his life, Zhao Sheng, despite being severely injured, risked everything to run over and try to stop them. Seeing him as a nuisance, they kicked him aside so he wouldn't be an eyesore. Another loudmouth, after kicking Zhao Sheng away, taunted, "We didn't ask him to fight the monsters for us. He was just trying to show off and impress the girls." Then, they approached Tin and threatened, "You think you're so tough, huh? If you're exhausted, hand over those tickets or else there won't be a next time, damn you." Seeing his benefactor injured and also being harassed by a bunch of scumbags, even though he himself was at death's door, Zhao Sheng still insisted on having his sister help him over there to save Tin. Seeing his friend being a bit reckless since that area was extremely dangerous, Wu Yin from afar tried his best to persuade him not to go. Seeing his cowardly friend, Zhao Sheng shot him a glare. Over on this side, when they demanded. When Xing still didn't hand over the ticket, the blonde-haired guy lost his patience and rushed forward, intending to take it by force. With an incredibly smug look on his face, he couldn't even smile for more than 2 seconds before a monster as long as a South American anaconda emerged from the ground. It swallowed him whole to everyone's horror. His friend froze, having never seen such a massive monster in his entire life. For a moment, he even thought he was hallucinating. After a closer look, he realized it was an extremely vicious and cold-blooded earth dragon. Once it sets its sights on someone, they are guaranteed to end up in its belly. After just devouring one guy, it then opened its maw full of sharp teeth and let out a roar to display its power. The ear-splitting, mind-numbing sound caused everyone, even those quite far away, to become dizzy. Unable to endure it any longer, they all collapsed and fainted. The young man who tried to steal Xing card was so scared his face turned deathly pale because very few people had ever been able to defeat it, usually just opting to drive it away instead. But in this sealed room, where could they possibly drive it? What a drag. And so, the young man trembled and collapsed to the ground, wishing he had just stayed home to grind games instead of taking the test. This was so damn frustrating. Then, after its show of strength, the earth dragon lunged forward and made quick work of the other young man. After finishing him off, it started to turn its attention to Xing. A light flick of its tail sent him smashing headfirst into a corner amidst a cloud of dust, after which it lunged, intending to make a meal out of Xing. However, with so much left to experience, he didn't want to die here, so he mustered every ounce of strength in his body to fight back against it. Although he possessed the incredibly powerful genes of the Demon King, they were still in their early stages of development, so he was still quite weak. Taking the full force of the Earth Dragon's bite, Xing demon arm was nearly torn apart, but he was not willing to become its food. He allowed the demon within him to take more control, borrowing its power to drive away the Earth Dragon. Outside, the parents were growing anxious because the tests seemed to be taking longer than usual, and they all hoped their children would come out safely. Yu had also come to wait for her beloved to finish the test so they could go on a date, but he still hadn't emerged. Feeling impatient, she got up to ask the guard about the situation. With her ability to control electricity, the girl realized something was wrong inside. Then, while she was arguing with the guard to be let in, the ear-splitting sound of the Earth Dragon's roar echoed out, causing everyone to clutch their chests in pain, their heads to spin, and then collapse to the ground. Knowing that something terrible must be happening inside, Yu fought through the pain and ran in while the guard was stunned. Since she had competed and been tested here a few times, the girl was very familiar with the layout, reaching the training ground in just a few steps. Inside, some people were desperately trying to restore the power but were having no success. Just as they were at a loss for what to do, Yu suddenly burst through the door. A young man, annoyed and not freaking understanding why the guard would let a kid in here, asked her what she was doing here. Fine, if you want to know, I'll tell you. I'm a student with 95% superhuman genes, and my superhuman ability is electricity. I'm here to lend you guys a hand with restoring the power. Seeing that she was just a brat who hadn't even enrolled yet, the man snapped, "You don't know anything about electricity, you just have a high voltage. You should go home and prepare your books for school tomorrow. Unwilling to let her beloved remain in danger, she glared and demanded that he let her help restore the facts. Power. She then showed off her power by shooting arcs of electricity to all corners of the room, and the team captain curiously reached out to touch it. He got a nasty shock that left his whole body numb, and the young man finally changed his attitude toward the girl, realizing who was standing before him. She was no pushover. He knew the girl could help him restore the power, but if that happened, the emergency exit would quickly open, and the monster could very well rush out through it, so he was determined not to let her interfere with his work. Then, he ordered the repair crew to eliminate the brat and stop her from causing any more trouble. They all obediently followed his orders, drawing their guns and aiming them at the girl. Inside the training ground, the battle between Jing Kun and the Earth Dragon was also raging fiercely. Although he had undergone further demonization, it was still nothing against the legendary monster. It merely opened its mouth and took a few light snaps, punching several large holes in his arm, which was then completely torn apart. After taking such a painful hit, Jing Kun couldn't believe how strong it was, since he had never fought it in his past life when they were on the same side. Because he had absorbed a lot of flesh from the smaller monsters he fought earlier, he could now use that energy to rapidly regenerate his torn demon arm. Knowing his body couldn't withstand its power, he could only dodge its attacks and retreat. After a struggle, Jing Kun finally found a weak spot on its underbelly. Immediately, he used his demon arm to create a rope and swung on it. Knowing that absorbing the flesh of stronger monsters would increase his own power, Jing Kun planned to use his Lord's bite skill to see if he could get a piece of its belly. But as he was channeling his power, its head turned and snapped at him again. However, with no room to retreat, Jing Kun decided to risk it all, ignoring the potential for injury, and desperately tried to slash its belly to get a piece of flesh. At the same time, outside, his beloved Jiyu was still fighting tenaciously to get inside and rescue her handsome man. Showing no mercy for the beautiful girl, the crew leader ordered his men to open fire on Jiyu. As the bullets flew toward her, the girl showed no fear and coldly used her immense electrical power to create a magnetic field around her body, deflecting the bullet's trajectory. After executing the move, Jiyu herself was surprised that a technique she had just come up with was so powerful on its first try. She looked at her hands with delight, but then, as that crew leader tried to call his superiors, the girl immediately noticed and used her electromagnetism to pull the phone toward her, while also yanking away the subordinates' guns so they couldn't fire recklessly anymore. Realizing she now had the upper hand, Jiyu coldly declared, "Open the door for me now, or you pathetic wimps will lose something precious." And so, the door was opened. Inside, thick smoke and dust made it impossible for those outside to see what was happening. With no time to waste thinking, Jiyu immediately rushed inside to save her beloved. As soon as she stepped in, she was utterly stunned and flabbergasted by the sight of such a terrifying monster. The electricians also hadn't expected to find an earth dragon in the room, their eyes wide and mouths agape in sheer terror. Although she knew it was extremely dangerous, Jiyu's thoughts were only of Jing Kun, so she pushed aside her fear and frantically scanned the area, searching for her beloved. When the power was fully restored, the professor looked down to see what the hell was going on, wondering who had ruined his perfect plan. Despite being pierced by the earth dragon's countless sharp teeth and torn apart, thanks to the relentless regeneration of the demon king within him, Jing Kun was still able to hold on. After holding on for a while longer, he spotted a golden opportunity, and despite its teeth piercing through his palm, he used all his strength to channel his energy and rip off a piece of its flesh. After achieving his goal, Jing Kun swiftly leaped backward. Seeing his beloved had fainted, Jing Kun quickly ran over to check on her. Watching from a high floor, the professor thought to himself, "No wonder Fan paid me so much money. This job is definitely not simple at all." However, with the appearance of the Earth Dragon, it's like the heavens themselves are helping me. Hey, looks like I have no choice but to take the money. Then, he pretended to be concerned for the students due to the Earth Dragon's appearance, loudly commanding his subordinates, "All personnel with superhuman abilities, get in formation. Before the purifiers arrive, hold back the Earth Dragon for me. Under no circumstances are you to allow the Earth Dragon to harm any outsiders, and you must also ensure the students have a chance to survive." After they left to carry out their orders, the old man wore a very smug expression, because no one here could possibly defeat the Earth Dragon. Back in the training arena, even in a one-on-one fight with no one to protect, Jing Kun was no match for the Earth Dragon, and now that he had to protect the one he loves, he couldn't fight back and could only carry her while trying to escape. While carrying Jiyu, the arm that had absorbed the Earth Dragon's flesh began to transform violently, as a blood-red aura burst forth and enveloped it. He was worried that if this half-demon form of his was discovered, he'd be captured and thrown in prison, let alone continue his studies, when he suddenly sensed imminent danger. Quick as a flash, a gleaming golden metal object was flying straight at his face. Thanks to his newly evolved demon arm, Jing Kun easily caught it. It turned out this sneak attack was from the professor. He saw that the emergency exit was open and, fearing Shin Kun would escape, came down to deal with him personally for good. When he saw Shin Kun's demon arm, he was stunned and couldn't believe his eyes, wondering what on earth the boy was. When Shin Kun held his beloved with his right arm and attacked the old man head-on with his left, which was surging with a blood-red aura. With 20 years of experience, this was the first time he had ever seen someone with such a bizarre superhuman gene, not even suspecting for a moment that Shin Kun was a carrier of a monster gene. Among the great elements of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, and thunder, there was never any record indicating that those elemental systems could sprout such a monstrous arm. It was unbelievable. After a moment of shock, the old man composed himself and declared, "I don't care what the hell you are, I'm sending you to meet your maker." He then used his superhuman ability, transmuting iron into gold to create countless sharp spikes and launched them at Shin Kun. Seeing that the treacherous old man was attacking him without any regard for the innocent girl, he pushed his beloved to safety and used his arm to block every single one of the man's spikes. Seeing Shin Kun's arm riddled with holes, the old man grew suspicious. A few seconds later, he was certain that the boy was a monster that had not yet fully transformed. Then, just as he was gathering his power to deliver the finishing blow, faster than a lightning, Shin Kun closed the distance with a massive demon arm, all the previous wounds having completely vanished, leaving the old man completely astonished. What kind of monster is this tough? Although his punch was incredibly fast and powerful, the old man was no amateur. Sensing the danger, he swiftly retreated backward, narrowly escaping with his life. The old man thought to himself that he shouldn't have come down, just asking for trouble. It was so frustrating. Meanwhile, the arm, Tinton's demon form, continuously absorbed power from the earth dragon and kept transforming, its muscles becoming much firmer. It was also much bigger and more impressive than before, looking incredibly powerful. Then, as it was undergoing further changes, his skin was torn apart. Dozens of the earth dragon's sharp teeth protruded from his flesh and bone, making him look extremely grotesque. Seeing Tinton writhing in pain, the professor was overjoyed and used his metal magic to create a massive block of gold to attack him. However, this was already the third stage of the Demon King's evolution, so that was nothing against his power. A light wave of his hand was enough to shatter the golden shield. Furthermore, the force of the blow also socked the old man right in the gut. Taking such a painful hit for the first time, he clutched his stomach in disbelief that a still-forming monster could be so strong. If it were to fully evolve, no one would be able to fight it. Despite being seriously injured, he stubbornly continued to taunt Tinton. He said that even if Tinton escaped, he would be hunted down like the other monsters out there, so he should not be so stubborn and should just surrender. Then, seizing the opportunity while Tinton was not paying attention, the old man tried to flee. Just as he thought he had escaped death, he suddenly ran face first into a pair of massive pomelos. Yu had woken up at some point, and seeing him badmouth. Her lover made her furious, so she charged a massive amount of electricity into her hands and attacked him directly. She reminded him lightly, "He is my man, and even if he is a monster, he is the one I love. You have no right to harm him. Got it?" Then, putting her words into action, Yu easily subdued him with her superhuman lightning gene. As a metal element user, the professor was an excellent conductor of electricity. When he was cornered in front of Tinton, not wanting to waste his love's effort, Tinton raised his monstrously huge arm. He used all his strength to slap the cunning, greedy old man right across the face. It was a finishing blow, and the old man was crushed into the floor. The tiles and stones around him were also completely shattered. Delicious, having used up a lot of energy for its evolution. The demon arm immediately absorbed the tasty meal of a high-level bloodline. After that, Tinton heard a commotion outside. The guards announced that the purifiers had arrived to eliminate the earth dragon, which made Tinton terrified. If they found out he was a monster, he would be totally screwed. Not wanting to involve his love, he told her to act like she knew nothing and stay away from him. However, girls are often stubborn and do not listen. She defied the danger and ran to hug his arm, which was surging with demonic blood. She snapped, "Even if you go to hell or anywhere else, I will go with you, because I have already fallen in love with you. Do not push me away." Feeling her sincere heart, Tinton was overjoyed, swearing that if they made it out of there safely, he would cherish her for the rest of his life. Finally, the purifiers arrived to eliminate the earth dragon. I thought they would be something special, but they got their heads chomped off the moment they reached the door. How boring. Meanwhile, the guards kept firing their guns to suppress it. However, against the earth dragon's invulnerable body, the bullets were like mosquitoes, biting steel. Then, after toying with the humans for a while, it opened its massive maw, filled with thousands of sharp teeth, and let out a roar to assert its dominance. All the weaker people could not withstand the pressure and quickly collapsed from exhaustion. Just when everyone thought they were about to become its dinner, a girl holding a water pipe appeared and immediately used a water spout to attack the earth dragon right in the face, saving everyone. They immediately noticed that her ability to control water was incredibly masterful. The interns realized that was the strongest guardian of the Superhuman Gene Academy, a 4-star superhuman, possessing 91% superhuman genes, Shangguan Kui. Right after getting the Earth Dragon under control, the school's belle immediately ran over to protect them and opened an escape route for everyone. Before leaving, she didn't forget to tell them to report the situation here to the purifiers behind them. After everyone reached safety, the girl confidently went to solo the Earth Dragon. In a corner of the arena, not wanting him to be discovered as a monster, Ji-Yu quickly found a room for him to hide in, finally spotting one that was empty and clean. Ting Kun went inside, while Ji-Yu quickly ran off to distract the guards. In the waiting room, Ting Kun's demon arm transformed relentlessly, engorged with surging blood, and with dozens of sharp spikes piercing out in all directions, causing him immense pain. Outside, in just 1 minute, the purifiers had rescued all of the remaining survivors. Ji-Yu pouted and said, "Why the heck did you guys rescue them so fast? Anyway, it's so freaking boring." Once everyone was safe, the room where Ting Kun was hiding suddenly shook with a loud bang, making everyone extremely suspicious. Fearing there was a monster inside, they immediately turned their attention to that room. Then, despite Ji-Yu trying to stop them, yelling, "There's nothing in there," they didn't listen and cautiously approached to see what it was. Seeing everything go off-plan, she glared, vowing that if he was discovered, she would send these two to their graves. So, they slowly approached the room. Ting Kun, having brought his monster arm under control, came out looking dazed and confused to face them as if nothing had happened. He then called the medical services, requesting an ambulance to take them for treatment. Ting Kun excitedly showed off his muscular arm to the girl. After admiring his own brawny arm, he thought to himself that his entire skeleton had evolved into the form of the Black Fang Earth Dragon. However, that still was nothing compared to the Earth Dragon. He was still too weak to change the tide of battle. The Earth Dragon was eventually defeated, but with his experience, Ting Kun knew that it was merely the tail of a giant monster lying deep underground. Once everyone had recovered, they all went out to reunite with their families. A few days later, the first day of school finally arrived. Before entering the school, Ting Kun and Ji-Yu stood at the gate, having a little flirty chat. The two of them promised each other to study hard to obtain as many resources as possible so they could upgrade and become stronger later on. While they were happily flirting, Zhao Jingwu and Xiao Tao approached from a distance to greet them. Moreover, they even called him Big Boss, which was so cool. Zhao Sheng said loudly, "Thank you for saving the three of us. Thanks to your great kindness, we are still able to be here today." The school made an exception and considered all survivors to have passed the trial. "We will never forget this immense debt of gratitude for the rest of our lives. From now on, you are our big boss, and we will be at your command, even unto death, with no regrets." Then, the three of them bowed sincerely. Ji-Yu leaned against Ting Kun and teased him. "Did you evolve again? Now even guys adore you." Ting Kun said he wasn't into sword fighting, so she could rest assured. Hey. Since they had only met Ji-Yu briefly and hadn't had a chance to get acquainted, Zhao Sheng stepped forward to ask, and Ting Kun introduced her. "This is my girlfriend. Her name is Ji-Yu." When they heard that name, the three of them were completely dumbfounded, because the person standing before them was the strongest new student in our academy. The genius Ji-Yu, who's been the talk of the school forum, possessing the highest superhuman gene percentage in history at 95%. Finding the young man shouting deafening, Xing Kun gently reminded him, "Keep your voice down. There's no need to be so dramatic." Hearing his big bro, Zhao Sheng immediately complied. Seeing the two of them as close as two peas in a pod, the three of them joked, "Remember to invite us to the wedding, hey. Since they were new to the school with no better prospects, Xing Kun teased, "My love, she and I are just best friends, the kind that fends for themselves." Then he poked her cheek teasingly. After chatting for a while, Wu Yin suggested that the five of them should form a squad to compete for resources together. "My spiritual sense can help everyone avoid the top experts among the freshmen, so we won't have our resources stolen by others. Or maybe we can even snatch resources from a few other students." As he was painting this beautiful picture, he was immediately cut off by Zhao Sheng. "Shut your mouth. That's no different from trying to harm Big Bro. We need to survive too. People with low superhuman genes in every batch are easily targeted, especially this one. The upperclassmen already told us, right? The genius selected from the 88% on the screening day for all high school graduates, he has already become the leader of the freshmen. Their goal is to take all the resources from those with superhuman genes below 50%, because it's very difficult for those with less than 50% superhuman genes to awaken. Like me, with 39% superhuman genes. Xiao Tao has 41%, and Wu Yin only has 50%. We absolutely cannot drag Big Bro down." They hadn't even attended a single class, yet they already had friends who cared so much for them, which made Xing Kun and Ji-Yu feel incredibly warm inside. The girl said that if they were trained into capable assistants, it would save a lot of effort. Heh. Agreeing with that, Xing Kun also grinned and said, I can help them become powerhouses in this school, second only to us in the entire world. That way, they can also reach the pinnacle of their lives, and willingly help us eliminate obstacles. And so, he agreed to form a squad with the three of them. This made Zhao Sheng, who was lecturing Wu Yin, freeze in disbelief. He said, Big bro, just let us fend for ourselves. It would be better for you to find stronger people. Seeing his friend think of him like that, Xing Kun encouraged him. I'm willing to form an alliance with you all simply because of your loyalty. If a loyal person like you is on the team, wouldn't my alliance be incredibly strong? Moved by Xing Kun's encouraging words, the once arrogant Zhao Sheng was now so thoughtful that he cried his eyes out. And so, the three of them agreed to join the squad of Xing Kun, promising to do their best on any mission he assigned. After chatting from morning until almost noon, they were tired and decided to go to the dormitories to rest. The next day, they went to their first class together. Standing at the podium, a professor introduced himself as Fu Liang, who would be their teacher for the year. He then added a few harsh words, within 1 year. Anyone who cannot awaken their superhuman powers will have to get the hell out of this superhuman academy for me. After the final trial, turning to Wu Yin, he asked, Have you awakened the superhuman power of the spiritual system? Danger perception, with 50% of your rookie genes. Then, he took roll call for each person, and since he was seeing his old teacher, Zhao Sheng cheerfully greeted him. However, the teacher sarcastically remarked, If you haven't awakened in the past year, you'll never awaken in your entire life, so go find a trade to learn instead of wasting your parents' money. Sitting next to him, Xing Kun wondered why the teacher wasn't calling anyone by name, and Zhao Sheng explained that the teacher only calls students by their superhuman gene percentage, which left Xing Kun speechless because he himself only had 1%, and it was too embarrassing to say out loud. The teacher then announced to the students that their class had a candidate with the highest superhuman gene count ever, named Ji Yu. However, that wasn't the most special thing. What was most surprising was that someone with a superhuman gene content of only 1% appeared in your class. The 1% student is no different from a normal person, so please stand up so everyone can get acquainted with you. The whole class started buzzing, turning their heads, wondering who could have such a low superhuman gene count. Zhao Sheng blurted out, Whoever this 1% guy is definitely going to drop out soon, only to be startled when Xing Kun stood up. He exclaimed, Holy cow, the 1% student is you, big bro. Please let me switch to a different team, big bro. The instructor spoke up, with only 1% of superhuman genes, you can still awaken? If that's the case, student Xing Kun, please come up to the podium and assist me with the lesson for a moment. Xing Kun confidently walked down to face him, not forgetting to add, there better be a reward, teacher. Standing opposite Xing Kun, the teacher began his lecture. Superhuman power refers to the elemental powers of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, ice, wind, lightning, and spirit. As long as you awaken, you can use your own superhuman genes to channel the power of the elements. These elements can be held within your superhuman genes inside your body for a short time. At this point, we need to control the superhuman genes and take elements from the outside world and store them within the superhuman genes. He continued, when you can do this without letting the elements dissipate, and you make your superhuman genes become a perfect battery, you can become a true superhuman if you can demonstrate it for everyone. And then, as he spoke, he pulled a large metal bar from his desk drawer, then effortlessly crushed a piece of it with his bare hands. Tossing it to Xing Kun, he said, In your entire life, you'll only ever be able to control a tiny piece of this metal, so go ahead and play with it a bit. Shangguan Kui has 91% superhuman genes and can breathe underwater. Your classmate Ji Yu can currently withstand at least 3,000 volts. If someone had 100% superhuman genes, they could likely only be called a god. Conversely, the lower the superhuman gene percentage, the lower the elemental sensitivity, making it harder to train. For anyone below 20%, before Xing Kun appeared, there was no precedent for awakening. As soon as he finished his sentence, he turned and saw the piece of iron in Xing Kun's hand transform into gold, which left the teacher completely astonished. No one taught him anything, and he can already do it. Could that in turn have misread this guy's stats? He knew the teacher was praising him, thinking, truly, only a person of great intellect or immense luck could accomplish that. Wanting to know the true extent of Xing Kun's abilities, the teacher asked him to use his superhuman genes to attack him. He hadn't even been in class for an hour and hadn't learned anything, yet he was already doing a practical exercise, truly one of a kind. And with Xing Kun's memories from his past, he knew very well this teacher had died. In a life-or-death moment, he had truly guarded the students' backs, buying them time to escape. He was a teacher worthy of deep respect. Seeing the teacher sweating profusely, it looked like this guy was ready to go all out against me. My super gene devours super genes. That fatso had transformed. Besides, with a 99% monster like me, it's no surprise the assistant instructor couldn't suppress me, which was only natural. This won't do. I should stay humble. Otherwise, what would I do if other students don't come to pick on me? So, even though he was strong enough to defeat him, Shinkan pretended to lose his footing and fell to the ground. Then he conceded defeat. Although he won, the teacher knew very well the kid had just thrown the match. He wondered what this kid was plotting. However, not defeating me in front of the class showed he was a pretty decent kid. Seeing the teacher win, the students erupted in cheers. After helping Shinkan up, he announced that the first class was now over. Immediately following this class would be the first resource scramble for the new students. A young man, sitting in the front row, saw that Shinkan had awakened with only 1% of his super gene and spoke up. On my way to school today, I happened to overhear some of his bold words. I don't know where he gets the guts, with only 1% of his super gene. He wants to defeat us all and steal our resources, which is just incredibly arrogant. I've been talking for a while, and I haven't even introduced myself. The name's Yu Xiong, and I possess an 85% water element super gene. Join my team, my friend. All students with super genes over 60% should band together. With an alliance of the strong, we can execute an insane plan. Then, while speaking, he walked over and extended his hand to Shinkan in a friendly gesture. Seeing him stay quiet, he added, people like us with real power should control the resources. It's only logical. Letting resources fall into the hands of the weak is a complete waste. Seeing how he looked down on everyone, Shinkan retorted sharply, when it comes down to it, you're just a bully who preys on the weak, and nothing more. Pissed off by the insult, the young man's eyes widened in anger. He turned to leave and snapped, who the hell do you think you are? You're nothing but a piece of trash with only 1% of a super gene. You shouldn't even have the qualifications to study here in the first place. And now you're acting like you can pass the final trial? It's only because Sister Yu is protecting you. I already knew all about that. You're so ungrateful. The only reason I invited you was because you could bring Sister Yu with you. Knowing his intentions from the very beginning, Shinkan put on an extremely punchable smirk, as if to say, I already know all your little schemes. Hee. Little Xiong was furious. He turned back and threatened, you just wait for me outside the school gate, you hear? You little punk. Our alliance of the strong will absolutely sweep up all the resources from weaklings like you. Listening to those oh-so-sweet threats, Shinkan wasn't scared in the slightest and just made another extremely punchable face. Okay, if that's what you want, I'll indulge you. Like I'm so scared of you. The teacher standing nearby was speechless, but didn't dare to intervene. He was afraid of getting his face smashed by a stray brick, which would be a disaster. So, he announced that the resource scramble for the first year, students was now officially starting. All students were to come to the podium to receive their resources and exchange vouchers, then head to the forest outside the school to assemble. After all the vouchers were handed out, the students quickly went into the forest to assemble. Zhao Sheng excitedly called for his little sister and his friend to go along with Shinkan. However, Wu Yin had never been in a forest before, so he was a bit timid, afraid of things like snakes and centipedes, so he could only shyly trail behind them. He said to Zhao Sheng, they said that even though my super gene is only at 49%, I've awakened. The Powerhouse Alliance saw him abandon his boss to follow others, so Zhao Sheng told him to get the hell out. Wu An stammered. Even though Shinkan is strong, he's only at 1%, and they're up against the entire Powerhouse Alliance. I really didn't expect him to provoke them right from the start. Seeing the weak young man lose all hope, Xiao Tao encouraged her brother, telling him to just let Shinkan do whatever he wants. Meanwhile, Shinkan and Ji Yu were attracting a lot of attention, those unwanted eyes, and the group kept taunting him. 1%, all you can do is laugh. You're not going anywhere now, we'll be sticking to you. Boss Xiang Ping will be back soon, and you'll have plenty of reason to cry then. Knowing that these brats were all talk, our protagonist simply smiled it off and said coolly, bring it on if you dare. My girl will zap every last one of you to Kingdom Come. This infuriated the guy. However, being the weaker one, he couldn't do a thing. Meanwhile, Xian Ao was hunting weaker students to steal their prize tickets, and a young girl had just become his target. Even though she hid well, he still found her and quickly subdued the girl using his water ability. Having achieved his goal, he left to find his next victim. After dealing with another group of minions, Xiang Ao ran into Ju Wan heading his way. Knowing this guy came from a powerful family, Xiong Ao invited him to join his team and bolster their strength. However, Ju Yuan was not to be underestimated. Not only did he have power and wealth, but his combat ability was also terrifying. When he heard Zhana's offer of an alliance, he immediately used his Fire Fist to make a statement. There would be no alliance, only a superior and a subordinate. The loser would have to obey the winner's commands. As a young master himself, hearing Ju Yuan demand his submission sent Xiang Ao into a rage, and he unleashed a massive torrent of water at him. Even though Xiang Ao was powerful, and water is the natural counter to fire, Ju Yuan had been trained in his abilities since childhood and had mastered his skills, allowing him to easily control Xiang Ao's torrent of water. Elsewhere, many of the weaker students who hadn't awakened their powers yet were shouting and cursing at the bullies, vowing that one day they awakened their abilities, they would make them pay 100, even 1,000 times over. At this point, only the 4 members of Jing Kun's team remained untouched. The bullies knew his group was a tough target, so they didn't rush in, but instead just surrounded them, waiting for Xiong Ao to come back and handle it. However, one of them let his mouth run wild, calling Xing Kun a coward who hides behind a woman's skirt with absolutely no guts as a man. Hearing her man being insulted, a furious Ji Yu began to crackle with electricity as a warning. The bully, afraid that the girl would build up enough charge to send them all to an early grave, quickly moved in to attack Ji Yu. However, the person standing beside her wasn't just a pushover. With a single hand, Xing Kun caught the guy's punch and slammed him hard onto the ground. It was the first time he had ever been so easily overpowered, and the bully broke out in a cold sweat, wondering what kind of monster Xing Kun was to be so inhumanly strong. Once Ji Yu had charged up enough electricity, Xing Kun reminded his girl, "Take it easy. If they all drop out of school, we'll have no one left to take resources from. Hee hee." Seeing their blonde-haired friend getting beaten dizzy, his teammates quickly rushed in to save him. However, he met the same fate as his blonde friend. With just a single hand, Xing Kun easily subdued the 2 punks who loved to bully others. While Xing Kun had them in an arm lock, they were also being zapped by Ji Yu's crackling electricity. They felt a fate worse than death and frantically begged for mercy. Their arrogant squadmates, who didn't know their place, aggressively rushed forward to save their comrades, but she didn't even bother paying those weaklings any mind. The person Ji Yu had been hunting was Zhang Ao, and after dealing with the guys who specialized in robbing others, Xing Kun spoke up to reassure the weaker students. "Listen up, students with superhuman genes below 60%. Don't listen to their threats. I will get revenge for you all. I will take all the resources they have and exchange them for plunder tickets for myself. Your starting point will be the same as before, so you can still give it your all." The people, who hadn't awakened yet, were afraid that Xing Kun and Ji Yu were just like the other bullies, who would use their strength to oppress the weak, so they scrambled to run away as fast as they could. However, with her awakened and extremely powerful electrical ability, Ji Yu easily controlled all of them, preventing them from running aimlessly into the forest, where they'd be screwed if wild beasts attacked. Meanwhile, with his awakened fire-type superhuman gene, Zhu Yuan was easily wiping the floor with Xiang Ao. The once arrogant young man was now forced to kneel on the ground to withstand Zhu Yuan's overwhelming power. Deciding that wasn't entertaining enough, Zhu Yuan gave a sly look and then launched a fire punch straight at Xiang Ao's face to see if he was worthy of becoming his subordinate. Although he strained with every fiber of his being to block it, the young man was still swallowed by the flames. It seemed the power level gap was just too vast. In contrast to Xiang Ao's suffering, Zhu Yuan calmly waited for the other man to submit after executing his move. After a minute, seeing Xiang Ao's eyes rolled back, mouth agape, and having lost all fighting spirit, Zhu Yuan slowly retracted his flames and lightly spoke. "You endured that well. You and your alliance can now become my subordinates." Heh. Having just taken a painful beating, Xiang Ao was incredibly bitter but couldn't resist. Seeing his new subordinate stay quiet, Zhu Yuan added, "I am already a 3-star superhuman. Based on my strength, I could have already graduated from the Superhuman Academy. The fact that you could use the water element to protect yourself from my flames and avoid having your face burned off is considered quite impressive." Xiang Ao asked in confusion, "If you could have graduated, what the heck are you doing back in school?" This Zhu Yuan fellow explained, "My purpose for returning is to represent the Fan family and find outstanding individuals like you to serve our clan. The Fan family treats every talented person equally based on their individual abilities, and we can help you grow quickly. In this unjust world, this kind of rare fairness, do you want it?" As he spoke, he extended a hand to pull Xiang Ao up. Hearing that he would be treated well, Xiang Ao agreed to follow him as Zhu Yuan's subordinate. However, just as he was about to take Zhu Yuan's hand, he was instantly found by Ji Yu's lightning, which paralyzed his entire body. Realizing this was the ability of the girl he had a secret crush on, the young man was quite surprised, because this girl had only been at the academy for a day and was already so overpowered. She was clearly not to be trifled with. Xiang Ao had just been burned by fire and was now getting electrocuted, his mouth agape as he trembled violently, completely helpless. A few minutes later, after pinpointing Xiang Ao's location, the 4 of them headed over to reclaim his resources. As soon as they arrived, they also ran into Zhu Yuan there. Being extremely polite, Xing Kun greeted him very formally. Seeing Ji Yu accompanying Xing Kun, the young man kept shooting flirtatious glances her way, hoping she would join his team to enjoy wealth and glory. However, her heart now was only focused on Xing Kun, so no matter how much she stared, she wouldn't follow him. Pissed off because he was more handsome, richer, and had more profound internal energy, he couldn't understand why the girl was so head over heels for that other guy. Feeling bitter, Zhu Qing unleashed a fiery display of power. The powerful flame shot straight towards Jing Kun. Facing it, our protagonist was extremely calm, showing no fear. He gently told his love, ****, "Step back, let me handle this." Then, with a piece of metal his teacher had given him in class, Xing Kun used his internal energy to turn it golden and punched directly into the flame, causing it to burn even more intensely. From a distance, Zhu Xing thought the idiot was done for, wondering if he'd go to jail, when he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He glanced over to see Xing Kun had already closed in on him. The protagonist charged forward, taunting, ****. The young master of the Fan family seems a bit tense, doesn't he? You're not used to strangers getting this close, are you? However, having awakened his superhuman genes, Zhu Qing quickly regained his composure and used the 9-yin fire bone claw to attack Xing Kun. However, as the flame approached, it suddenly split in two. Not knowing what the guy was planning, Xing Kun froze for 2 seconds. The moment he saw the protagonist let his guard down, Zhu Qing quickly merged the two flames back together, trapping Xing Kun tightly. The blazing, magma-like flame scorched the nearby trees to a crisp. Xiang Nao, who was still on the ground, saw this and had to admit, if Zhu Qing had used his full power on me earlier, I would have been a goner. His rival, when suddenly Xing Kun, who had escaped the flames, leaped forward to attack. Zhu Qing felt that his opponent this time was the real deal. Zhu Qing switched to serious mode and immediately used the Crimson Flame Thousand Hands to attack our protagonist head-on. Sensing the flames were more numerous and hotter than before, Xing Kun was a bit surprised by his power. However, with his body impervious to blades and swords, this attack was still just child's play to Xing Kun. He gripped the metal piece in his hand, slicing through the air to part the flames and cut off Zhu Qing's technique with incredible ease. Seeing his powerful technique neutralized so easily, Zhu Qing couldn't believe his eyes. He only has 1% superhuman genes. How can he be this overpowered? While he was still stunned, Xing Kun had already closed in on him. Realizing that all the power Xing Kun had displayed came from the piece of metal in his hand, Zhu Qing planned to snatch it and make Xing Kun submit to him. However, before he could act, Xing Kun pretended to get hit and cried out in pain. Zhu Qing, standing nearby, was utterly confused, thinking, ****, is this guy high or something? Then, after the competition was over, the teacher appeared to check the results. After putting in so much effort to steal from others, only to have everything taken by Xing Kun's group, the blonde guy and his team stood aside, fuming. In stark contrast to their gloom was the cheerful excitement of Xing Kun's group. His team had collected a total of 78 tickets and quickly handed them to the teacher. After checking, the teacher glanced over at Zhu Qing to see how many tickets the privileged kid had managed to get. Zhu was certain he still had 1 ticket in his pocket, but after checking, he couldn't find it anywhere. How strange. Seeing his confusion, Xing Kun taunted him lightly, ****. Oh, my bad, I forgot. Earlier, when I was being defeated by you, young Master Fan, I saw a resource ticket on the ground and picked it up. Then he pulled from his pocket a ticket and handed it to him. Because his family was wealthy, Zhu Qing didn't care about those resources anyway. Turned and left coldly, swearing that one day he would kill Xing Tun to take back his beloved, though he hadn't contributed any effort at all. However, Zhao Sheng and Xiao Tao played a huge role as cheerleaders, so they also received many things from Xing Tun. The two brothers following behind cried their eyes out because their big bro was so good to them, they had truly chosen the right side. Hee. Xiao Tao witnessed the entire battle and didn't understand how Xing Tun could defeat Zhu Qing, but not finish him off, so Xing Tun explained it to him. He's the young master of the Fan family and very powerful. We got the resources and that's enough. There's no need to push him that hard. So, wanting to increase his power quickly, Xing Tun went up to the dorm room with her to use the items, explaining to his darling as he did. When a large number of superhumans appeared, in this world, humanity began to study their powers. Although humans still can't create superhuman powers, they can use biological energy sources, for example, by refining life essence from animals. The origin fluid is used to replace the elemental power consumed by superhumans during refinement. It sounds like a monster eating people, and it's not pleasant to drink at all. It basically doesn't satisfy hunger. The people from the resource department said 1 tube a day, combined with your body's own absorption and recovery rate, is the most effective way to use it, but don't hold back or try to save the school money. Use all your strength to reach the 1-star rank as fast as possible. As he spoke, Xing Tun leaned his face close to Ji Yu's as if he wanted to French kiss her right then and there. Then, getting closer and closer, the girl was eagerly anticipating it because she had never been kissed before and didn't know what it felt like. In a flash, she felt that, after his 18th birthday, Xing Tun had changed a lot, understanding he really wasn't going after those other girls anymore. It seemed he had even deleted their phone numbers and social media accounts. I wonder if that's a good or a bad thing. It's so hard to understand. When they were close enough, she thought she was about to get a deep kiss, but who would have thought Jingtun would whisper, "Shock me." Then he even pinched her cheek, leaving Ji Yu dumbfounded. "You're not going to kiss me? I'm so annoyed. You made me wait all this time." Seeing the girl shyly, pressing herself against the wall, Jingtun immediately approached and brought his face close to Ji Yu's. The girl's eyes widened as she looked straight at her dreamboat, hoping he would just kiss her already, since he'd been getting her hopes up. Then he gently pushed her down to the floor, and Ji Yu didn't resist at all. As obedient as a kitten, being pinned down by the man she had pursued for so long, Ji Yu was overjoyed. She just wanted to have a few of his babies right then and there. Then Xingtin began to savor his dinner. First, the scent. Oh my, she smells so good even without any perfume. Then, just as their lips were about to touch, the monster inside him suddenly awoke, opening its mouth wide and staring with bulging eyes as if it wanted to eat Ji Yu alive right then and there. Realizing he was being controlled by the monster again, Ji Yu immediately jumped up and shot electricity at him. After a paralyzing blow, it finally retreated inside, not daring to show itself again. Ji Yu's face was blank because she was so close to getting that kiss, but it got ruined, so frustrating she didn't even want to talk about it. Then, knowing the monster inside him was starving, Xingtun hurriedly got ready to go find some bad guys to feed it. Before leaving, he didn't forget to tell his darling to sleep well. Ji Yu saw that he was going out to do bad things without even bringing a muzzle, so she gave him one. Then the two of them exchanged flirtatious glances. After they hooked up, Tin Tan slowly walked out, while the girl watched him leave with a sad look, too disappointed for words that he would just hit it and quit it. So, will the romance between them actually lead to anything? We'll have to wait for the next chapter to find out, but for now, goodbye everyone.